All right, everybody set up? All right. With that, I welcome everybody here to the Board of Directors for Indian Wells Valley Water District regular board meeting on Monday, December 9th. Called to order at 4:30. And with that, I'd like to pledge allegiance. And hey, Jim, I'll let you lead us. Yeah.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call
President Kaczynski,
here.
Vice President St. Amon,
Here.
Director Boyd,
Here.
Director Griffin,
Here.
Director Ratora.
Here. Thank you. Posting of agenda declaration.
The agenda for today's regular board meeting was posted on Thursday, December 5th, 2024.
All right, thank you. Conflict of interest declarations.
President Kaczynski,
None.
Vice President St. Amon,
None.
Director Boyd,
None.
Director Griffin,
I do have one. I will be abstaining from the vote on the Townhouse Suites by Marriott.
Director Ratora.
None. Thank you. With that, I'll open up for public questions and comments in the closed session. I see no public here. I take it no one's on the line. Okay, so with that, I will close this session at 4:30. I'll call it 4:32, and we'll adjourn to closed session. All right, welcome, everybody. We're back out of our closed session, so I'll reopen the main session at 6 PM. With that, before we get started, I want to make one quick announcement. We go to public questions and comments. If anybody got the notice about the public hearing, you'll notice that on there, that the very first line said January, I forget which date it was, January 13th, 2024. It should have said 2025. Because of that, those will all be reissued again. And the public hearing date looks like it'll be set for February 10th, 2025. All right. I thought I'd make that announcement pretty quick and move on from there. With that, I will open this part for public questions and comments. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons designed to address the board on any matter not on the agenda and over which the board has jurisdiction. However, no action will be taken by the board directors on any item not appearing on the agenda. Non-agenda speakers are asked to limit their presentation to 5 minutes. Public questions and comments and items listed on the agenda will be accepted at any time the item is brought forth for consideration by the board.
Closed session report.
Oh, I'm sorry, closed session report.
That's all right.
Yeah. Before public comment, closed session
The
report.
board met with legal counsel and
You guys
staff
hear me off track with that announcement.
on the items in the closed session. No action was taken. Wise disclosure.
Thank you. All right, on to public questions and comments. So we're open for public.
I learned to check this. Good evening, gentlemen, staff. This is Mike Neal again. I want to reiterate the suggestion that I made at the last meeting, I believe. And that was looking at some way to capture as much rainwater when it does occur in the valley as we can. And I know that'd take a little work probably to figure out how to get through the caliche layers and how to get the stuff to go on down into the aquifer eventually. But it may well be worth looking at when we have 2 or 3 natural drainage points coming off the Sierra Mountains, which have quite a large watershed. I don't know what the current knowledge is about what happens to the water that drains down through those. And then the rest of the valley has, of course, washes and things where the water will flow that at appropriate points could be captured. So, I mean, it may be that your staff and your hydrologist consultant could just dismiss that with the wave of the hand and say it's too hard to do or costs too much. But, you know, as far as I understand things, it's at least worth looking at and giving some consideration to. We could catch a lot of rainwater just in a half-inch rain in this valley. The other one is a suggestion, I guess, for a belated Christmas present to the ratepayers. Since you're going to be having the public hearing now delayed another month, but rates are going to go up with that coming on. You could pass a resolution at the next meeting attendant to your prior resolution stating your opposition to the imported water pipeline and say, since we don't think we need the pipeline, we don't want to pay the replenishment fee and chop that off everybody's bill. And then people will be a whole lot happier paying increased rates for their basic water usage if they didn't have to see that charge on their bill. So that's something I strongly suggest that you consider going ahead and doing. As we all well know, Searles Valley has refused to pay it from day one. I don't think they're yet paying it, nor have been made to pay it. And it would certainly bring put a weight on the actions of the VGA if they didn't have all that funding coming in from us. Besides that, hope you guys have a great holiday season coming up, and wish you all a very Merry Christmas and New Year's.
Merry
Thank
Christmas
you.
to
Merry
you too,
Christmas.
sir.
Thank you, Mike.
Happy New Year.
gonna have another comment, let me.
Someone on the phone line?
Yes.
Okay, let me know when they're, yes. Are they? Oh, Renee does?
Hello?
Renee? There you go, Renee.
Can you
Yeah.
hear me?
Yes,
Can you give the date for the rescheduling of the hearing for the water rates increase?
Renee, even though we know who you are, can you please state your name for, so we have it on
Yes,
recording?
Renee Westalusk. I live within Ridgecrest city limits. I'm a water district customer.
Thank you. I believe the hearing date will be our regular board meeting in February, which I see is the 10th. No one's telling me I'm wrong, so it looks like the 10th of February of 2025.
Okay, and there won't be just this one hearing, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and then we'll be able to ask questions about these rate changes, because it just seems like when you look at everything projected out to 2029, most residential, I mean, they're gonna have to pay almost $100 or over $100 just to connect by 2029.
That's correct. We'll accept comments during the public hearing.
And then I have questions regarding the plant equipment report meeting or whatever you have those other meetings. And will they be addressing that later in the meeting?
If you notice, under general manager, we have committee meeting updates now. And under that committee meeting updates as well, anything will be discussed considering the committee meetings.
Yeah, will I be able to ask any questions?
Yes,
Okay. Okay, because that's usually you rush through the committee reports and then people can't ask any questions.
that's why we had that general manager add that agenda item, so we can go over the committees if there were questions and responses.
Okay,
All right,
thank you.
thank you. Any other questions, comments from the public? Hearing none, I'll close the public questions and comments section, and we'll move on to current business committee reports, and as well as number A, consent calendar, approval of the board meeting minutes and accounts payable disbursements. That's approval of the minutes from November 12th, 2024, special board meeting. And number 2, approve the accounts payable disbursements.
I so move.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Second, is there any comments or questions from the public or the board? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Unanimous? Thank you. All right. Plant and Equipment Committee, I guess this one we're carrying out separately because of the dedication of facilities, Town Place Suites by the Marriott. So who's handling this? I believe it's Renee. Yes.
President Kaczynski, can
Yes.
I make a statement? I will be abstaining from this conversation and from this bid because I did some work on this project, so I believe I should.
Okay, thank you. All right, Renee.
All right. So in your packet is a timeline and a resolution and the agreement from the developer for the 2-year warranty. That would be from today. This came before the board, or I don't know if it actually went to the board. It went to P&E last year, and we realized that they needed to update their costs for construction, and we've been waiting until now to get that. So the value of the facilities installed is $69,230. And once they get meters set, they can get the backflows tested. So I recommend that the board approve the dedication of the facilities.
I'm sorry. And I believe the committee meetings were just one board member at each, so they don't have a recommendation at this time. So,
No,
yeah.
Well,
Yeah, but go ahead.
personally, I recommend that the board.
Okay.
I recommend it.
Okay. Are there any discussions or questions about this item from the board? Anything from the public? All right, with that, I will call for the vote.
President Kaczynski,
Yes.
Vice President St. Amand,
Yes.
Director Boyd,
Yes.
Director Griffin,
Abstain.
Director Ratora.
Yes.
Thank you. We'll move on to item C, Indian Wells Valley Groundwater Authority report and discussion for the November meeting. And I think, Chuck, you're going to make that pretty brief because I don't think anything happened.
Yeah, no, there was no meeting last month due to a lack of quorum. There is a meeting this Wednesday. If you'll note, the start time for the public is now changed to 10:45 this week. Closed session is at 10, and then they have also a closed session at the end of the meeting. So it looks like they went by kind of what we had hoped, and they're going to have a closed session at the end of open session. So it looks like the public meeting will be starting at 10:45.
Well, it sounds like maybe, Chuck, you were successful in telling them, come on out when you're supposed to and talk to the public. Yeah.
I'm
thank you.
hopeful that's why they did it.
Yeah, I hope that's the reason they continue that. Thank you so much. So is there any questions or comments from the board about that, since there was no meeting last month? How about the public? Sorry.
I looked at the package and I didn't see anything having to do with updating anything technical whatsoever, including the updated GSP or the annual report, both of which were supposed to be out for review. And I didn't see anything there
Correct, Stan.
whatsoever. So seems to me if they're really going to get that GSP update, or it's not really, they don't call it an update anymore. It's a
Revision, is it?
evaluation.
I think it's just an
or
evaluation.
It's called a periodic review and then.
Periodic
Yeah,
review.
yeah.
If they're going to get it out by January 31st, there's going to be no time to review it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, and I will be asking that question at Wednesday's meeting. We were told we were going to get sections to review and look at. To my knowledge, I don't believe we've received any section. And it's not on the agenda for this month, so I assume it will be on January's agenda. But that would not give us time for any of the board members, technical staff, or anybody to review it, so.
Because it's due to DWR.
It's due to DWR, I believe, January 31st, if I'm
Yeah, I believe
correct.
so. Well, originally their schedule said they were going to start putting things out for review in July. I thought, then they revised it to September, I believe. And now it looks like there's going to be no time to review at all.
I will be asking that question, so thank you.
Thank you, Chuck. Any other questions or comments? Any from the public? Hearing none, we'll move on to item D, discussion on injection wells with Indian Wells Valley Groundwater Authority. Staff to update board and discussion with the IWVJ regarding the use of recycled water. I assume this is you, George?
It is, and nothing significant to report there. We opened those discussions. We'd like to see if they're willing to change their pipeline design, but we've heard nothing back. So
Okay.
nothing significant to report on that, although it's a big issue for us.
Anything from the board? Questions? Anything from the public? Hearing none, we'll move on to comprehensive adjudication. Oh, I'm sorry.
Just to go back, sorry, to the plant and equipment
Yes.
committee item, was there an official motion? Because I don't have a first or a second. We just, took the
I
vote.
thought he made the motion to approve as recommended.
But we need a director to first and then second it. We took the vote and
We had,
everybody said
we
aye,
had a
but we-
motion,
But who?
which David,
Second. I don't have it either.
you don't have a, I
Okay.
heard a second. I thought I did.
Second.
I thought you were the second. But never mind. Okay, is that all you need?
Yes.
Okay,
Do we need to revote after a second? Are we okay?
I think,
Okay, we're good. I know there was a second. I just, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. All right, comprehensive adjudication. Jim, anything to report?
He already did it.
just now,
Yeah. Yeah, I know. So am I.
there wasn't anything to offer on item D.
There we
The
go.
only thing there is to report is, you'll recall that the court granted the motion of Searles Valley Mineral to have a safe yield trial whereby evidence would be presented by the parties, including the GSP, and that the court was not bound by the GSP determination of safe yield. The Groundwater Authority subsequently filed the petition with the Court of Appeal, asking for the court to consider the question, or at least hear them out. The court declined the GA's request, and the GA has now filed a petition with the Supreme Court asking the Supreme Court to hear it or to at least direct the appellate court to consider the question again. Higher you go up in the courts, the more difficult it is to get a petition for review granted or something like that. So we would hope to have a decision by the Supreme Court in the next 60 days. But that's where we are. Everything else is pretty much just moving along. The discovery is moving forward for the Phase 1 Federal Reserve Water Right trial set for April 28th, I believe, 2025. That's all.
All right.
Did we have a estimate of when that decision would be made by the Supreme Court?
I believe it's 60 days now, but they have the authority to grant themselves additional time.
Thank you.
So this is the Supreme Court of the state of California, is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
And did they include any additional information, amplifying information for the Supreme Court that they didn't already submit to the lower courts?
I would say that they maybe mixed it up and presented it a little differently, but much of it was familiar.
Yeah. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions for the board? Any from the public?
Judy Decker. Yes, I have a question. Which Court of Appeals did the GA's petition go to?
I believe it's fourth. It's the same one that granted the GA's prior request.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Mike Hill. So at what point is the basin water safe yield model has been withheld for all this time? At what point is that gonna have to be made to come out?
There's a mutual disclosure date related to the Phase 2 trial, and I believe it's February 20th, Mike, of 2025 when model production should occur.
So that could then go out to the public at that time?
If everything, if it all goes according to plan, that would be yes.
All right, very good. Thanks.
Mr. Neal, are you asking about the technical working groups model or the
No,
Clean
the
Water
one, the
Authority's
one
model?
that's been hidden all these years by the GA and saying they can't release it.
Oh, well, we're still working on that. Whatever model the GA is going to use for the Phase 2 trial, that will definitely have to be produced on February 20th. And then there's still ongoing efforts by some of the other parties, major pumpers in there to get a copy of the 2020 model. But we're still trying to get that.
Any other comments, questions? No one on the line? Nobody on the line? Okay. All right. With that, we'll move into item F, election of officers. Oh. You okay? All right. Thought I had to hit you on the back. Here, I can use this, Stan. All right. With that, we basically, Board of Directors will nominate and vote for the 2025 Board of Directors President and Vice President. With that, I'll go ahead and I'd like to start by stating I'd like to see Director St. Amand, which is typical, the Vice President becomes President for the next year. So that's my comment, or any other comments from the rest of the board?
I concur.
We okay? All right. So Jim, I take it we need a motion and a second to move on?
The way I know you're going to vote, go ahead and give me the Vice President. And if you guys disagree, then we can do it again.
Okay. And as far as Vice President goes, my recommendation is Chuck Griffin. Do I have anybody?
I concur.
I'll concur. Okay. So do you want me to make a motion for both the President and Vice President?
Yes, you can.
Okay. I'm going to make a motion that for the 2025 Board of Directors President, that Mr. St. Amand, David St. Amand, be appointed as President, and for Vice President, Chuck Griffin. So with that, that's my motion. Do I have anybody who wants to second it?
I'll second.
Thank you. And so any comment for the public? Hearing none, we'll call for a vote. And it looks like it's a unanimous yes. So congratulations, you know. And with it, and with that, I'm going to remind you, empty out your drawer tonight or we'll all be in big trouble. Okay.
Get rid of this.
I don't know the answer. I think that it probably can, you know, is my guess. It's been in all these drawers for, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, we'll move on to item G, committee assignments. Basically, what that's all about is what the new president would like to hear from the board, what committees you'd like to be assigned to. And then in the first meeting of January, he'll make that announcement or whatever else we need to do on the committees.
So when would you like to have those?
Yes, David.
Those dates? Was there a date you have set that you'd like to receive those by?
So if I understand correctly, I'll be making the announcement at the board meeting on the 13th.
Yes,
And until that time, people will continue to attend the board meeting to which they have been assigned.
right. The committee meeting, yes.
If I could have that by January 6th, I would appreciate it.
I provided my recommendations, George,
I see Lauren has, you have a question, Lauren?
and the current president.
So in the past, you can change how we've done it, but in the past, the new board president decides by the end of the year, because then they go into effect,
Okay,
the first committee meetings of 2020.
all right.
Well,
So it's up to him.
That poses the question of the.
Then let's have it to me by the 23rd, please.
Okay, and are you going to take into account the suggestion on committees?
Yeah, there's an idea that water management should be folded into another committee, and my preference would be to fold it into the admin exec committee. But does everybody have an objection to that? All right.
No, I think.
Do we
it's
need to
safe
officially
district
change the
money.
committees if structure?
No, I think you can assume that that'll probably happen at the January board meeting, the consolidation of the,
So what he presents will be where we move. Okay.
yes.
Along with assignments. All right. Okay. Any comment from the public? Any more from the board? Wow, we're moving along here. All right. Item H, Joint Powers Agreement, Representative Board Discussion, Consideration of Primary and Alternate Representative for the Joint Powers Agreement related to Indian Wells Valley Groundwater Authority for a 2-year term, 25 and 26. Jim, pursuant to our discussions that we did not want to make a change yet, is that correct? So do we need to do anything? How do you want to handle that?
So the way it works, there is no time limit imposed by the Groundwater Authority. As you know, Scott Heyman and Philip Peters have both served more than 2 years. However, when the district appointed its first GA representative, that was Peter Brown back in 2016, I believe, and Lauren was able to grab the old minutes, and there's a 2-year limit on it. So if Chuck's going to remain, as I understand it, for another 6 months or so, I think the only action that is required is the board would delete the 2-year term limit on the GA position. And by doing that, Chuck's still on the board, as well as Ron would be the
Alternate.
continuing alternate.
And I sort of like that idea because it gives an option that if a representative once says after 1 year for some reason needs to leave it, or everybody's good where they are for a subsequent number of years, we don't have to be bringing this forward all the time. So all you really ask to do is that we remove the 2-year term limit at this time.
Motion to remove the 2-year term limit.
Okay?
And I think that's good because, I will do it and am excited to do it for the next 6 months. But life changes for
Right.
people. And so there's going to be, work and different things that take us away. So if it's not a 2-year commitment, I think it'd be good if it leaves that option open. So
Okay. So are you making a motion?
I'll make a motion that we delete,
That we delete
remove the
2-year.
2-year term limit.
Okay, and just leave it open.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any comments from the public? Any other comments from the board? Hearing none, I'll go ahead and ask for a vote on that.
President Kaczynski,
Yes?
Vice President St. Amand,
Yes.
Director Boyd,
Yes.
Director Griffin,
Yes.
Director Ratora.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, here's the exciting part of the agenda, general managers and staff update. You're on a clock. I'm watching you.
Let's get going. Okay, production, 115 million gallons, 5% decreases as compared to last year. Consumption, 166 million gallons, a 25% increase versus last year. We had an unusual year last year. It was exceptionally wet, and we had followed by an exceptionally hot summer and then a dry winter. So we actually saw a slight increase in both production and utilization this year. We don't expect that to continue, but worth reporting. No injuries. We had 28 water smart conversations, 24 field visits. We had 89 delinquent account lockoffs, and I don't know, Ty, did we have any other? Is that the correct number, or did I?
That is exactly the same as last month.
Okay, I was gonna say it's the same as last month. And do you have any data on how many of those were like sort of immediately turned back on?
They haven't tracked that.
Okay, so we're gonna start tracking that as well, because most of these, what we find out is like within an hour or two, they're back out there turning it back on. So, but it is worth noting as economic times get harder. Next slide. Committee meeting updates. I wasn't here because I was at the Aqua Conference, but I did put a couple of notes. It looks like we had a draft of some new finance slides, some groundwater model costs discussed in finance. Talked about the recycled water feasibility study. Not a whole lot in admin exec. And then we talked a little more about the recycled water project in the water management. I believe we have a person online that may have had some questions. So why don't we let
Yeah, I
let
believe
that go.
Renee Westlook said she had some questions about the committees. So Renee, are you still there?
Yeah, yes, I am.
Okay.
Okay, on the, let's see, Plant and Equipment Committee. Do we have a date when the Northwest Transmission Pipeline is going to be operational, fully operational, or is it going to take several months to get it operational yet?
That's coming up in item 4 of the general manager's report and staff report. It's just down the page just a little
Yeah,
bit.
we'll just defer that question. I'm sure Renee has an answer to that, but do you want to wait, Renee?
Okay.
We'll get to that. Any other questions?
Well, I did have a question on the finance
Okay.
report.
Okay. What was it?
Well, at the bottom, I guess, maybe it's the second page. I don't know how many pages into the report. I guess it is page 2. They show net revenue increase, decrease. And they show budget negative 1,264,339. And then actual is negative 800,670. Now, are those for the whole year that we're behind in revenues?
Ty?
So yes, that is through November. You see, normally with our budget, we'd be a negative 1.2 million, but we've actually had that increase George was talking about of 6% in consumption. That's why you see a negative 800.
You're saying it was less
Less negative.
less negative because you said there was increased usage of water.
Correct.
Okay, and then this negative 800,670 is cumulative, like through November.
Correct.
Okay, and then there's still going to be a December total. So
Actually, our budget goes through
June through
July, so
July
we
through
have,
June.
so we're not quite halfway through our fiscal year, so we have another, 7 months before we balance the books at the end of the year.
So we're almost $1 million. The water district's almost $1 million behind in revenues. Do you expect that to double by the end of the fiscal year?
No, I think what Ty said, and Ty, correct me if I'm wrong, I think what he said is that we would project ourselves to be at this point, we would project ourselves to be behind.
Yeah, well, remember when we approved the budget, it was a deficit budget. We weren't covering all of our depreciation.
Okay.
So we will be still negative probably at the end of the year. That's why we're looking at the rates like we are. That's not a cash deficit. That's just an revenues versus expenditures deficit, little different.
Yeah.
Because we have the non-cash expenditure of depreciation.
So
So
you're
to
saying
answer, to
we
answer your
have
question,
you have enough money to pay the bills. It's just, you're
yes,
saying with,
Yep,
Correct.
it's accounting.
yeah, so I think we could simplify it this way. If we did not do a rate study and somehow correct our rates, we would, and we continued that for many, many years, we would run out of our cash reserves. So that's one of the reasons we have to
Right.
do the rate study.
It's also impacting our ability to do capital projects because you don't, it's whatever money is in depreciation is this typically what you use for your capital projects.
okay. All right. Thank you. It makes it more clear. Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
questions.
Good questions. All right. Are we ready to move on?
I had just a quick
Okay.
comment regarding the general manager's report. George, could you include these in the board packet in the future? There's some good information on these slides.
Oh, okay. Yes, I will.
That's my takeaway from the meetings is
Okay.
thanks.
All right. Anything else? Any other comments?
Mhm.
Up through, let's see, up through the committee meetings date. All right. We're on to public outreach.
Okay. Oh, interestingly, the Economic Outlook Conference, which is a big deal. There's no speakers allowed to discuss Sigma or water-related topics. So I believe the people from Searles Valley Minerals asked to speak. We asked the question if we were going to be allowed to speak like last year, but they've chosen not to have any water discussions there. So we won't be speaking at the EOC this year. I was invited to talk at the Republican Club, I believe in January. I accepted that. Report on the Aqua meeting. We went to the Aqua conference and there was these are so great, and I don't want to go on too long other than to say one of the really primary messages that came out of there is that the State Water Project is in a significant state of reduction, and the amount of water available through the State Water Project it appears to be decreasing pretty dramatically. They gave the example that last year, with all reservoirs full, record amounts of rainfall, the allocation to the average customer was only 50% of what they actually had the rights to, and that would probably be the best case scenario. And if things continue with the environmental folks who are protective of the various species of fish in the Delta area, that might be as good as it ever gets in the future. And of course, considering that that's where people are looking to get water to supplement our water supply, that is not a rosy outlook for us. The lower the allocation in the State Water Project, the more water we would have to purchase to make any dent in our supply if it were to be brought over. And it seems increasingly evident that may not be where you want to look for water if you're having issues like we are. So I thought that was the big takeaway message from the Aqua Conference. Ron, any comments?
Oh, not really. That was a pretty good one. I'll also make a quick comment about the state bills that have been attempting to get through about supplementing low-income people's water bills. There's a good discussion about that with a lot of members of Aqua there, small water companies, large water companies and such. Everything's a suspension now because the latest one to come out was saying you're going to charge your customers a fee to supplement the low income, but they have to opt out, not in. Remember that, Ty? That's all in suspension right now because the questions are going back is, how can you fairly fund this thing? A good example was one small water district. I'm probably off on the numbers, but let's say they had 500 customers. He said basically more than half of them would qualify as low income. So where do you get the money to pay the bills from the other half? It's like doubling everyone else's bill. So the question was, how do you get the money to pay this? It's a consensus that the state or the federal government has to supply the money. Period. It's got to come from somebody. They talked about the Safe Water Project, or Safe Water supplying it. They said there's not enough money there. So that was, but the biggest part of it that I thought was good is that they told Aqua, you need to get after the state and quit doing these unfunded mandates. The water bills are going up and going up and going up because of a lot of these unfunded mandates. And as long as those water bill goes up, it makes it more difficult for people to pay their bills. So it was an interesting conversation. No decisions came out of it, but Aqua, the people that do the lobbying in such form want to be aware of all this. And where is this going to head? and how do you do it, and how do you fairly do it? I didn't even think of the example where if you have a very small water company and it's in a, let's say, an area that is low income, where you get the money to pay for this? You know, it's very difficult. And of course, the opt-in, opt-out thing was difficult. So that one was a good discussion as well. So I don't know where that's going, but but Aqua's, they feel positive that it's going to come back some way or another. Something's going to come up one way or the other. So it isn't gone, and who knows how it's going to rear its head. They don't know that yet.
Okay, we continue to work on our webpage. We have some different proposals that we're looking at, and, we hope it's getting better, and it will continue to get better in the future. Lots of social media posts, lots of newspaper articles out there about us. And I'll take a minute to just say, wish we could tone down some of the rhetoric from the GA, the constant criticism of the water board, when we want nothing more than to have sustainable and affordable water. I think we have so much in common and so many things that we should be working together on and cooperating on, but, they continue to seem recalcitrant to do that. And to wrap up, we have one of our very long-time employees, Joe Rivera, is retiring this week. Somebody know how many years he was here?
35.
35 years. So how about a round of applause for Joe Rivera?
Wherever you are, Joe.
Great people that make the magic happen at the Water District.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
And we'll move on to,
I have a comment
I have a
and a
comment
question.
too.
Yeah, I'm going to ask for comments or
Oh, go ahead.
questions on, I'll just work on, David, you first?
First is question, the Economic Outlook Conference. Do you have a date for that?
they have a date. I don't know what it is off the top of my head. I will email it to you.
Okay, thank you. And go ahead, and I'll make a comment after you're done.
Oh, okay, my comment was on that Economic Outlook Conference. It troubles me that no speakers are allowed to discuss SGMA or related topics or water. Water's critical, and it's important that the citizens get updated and they're kept up to date on everything that happens. So that bothers me that, where did that come from? Or because it's been there every year. I mean, at every Economic Outlook Conference, you always discuss what's going on with water, what's our future.
Yeah, I think everybody in this room recognizes that water blood is one of the lifebloods of the economy, and should be a topic of discussion particularly in this area. I believe the vote was taken by their board, from what I heard, and that was their decision. I think I certainly respect it. But like you, I might wish it was different, but that is what it is, and feel free to. Yeah.
I just don't want, what I don't want to see happen is, because I plan on attending that, and I don't want to see somebody get up there and talk about a pipeline's coming or something, or this is going to be our future, when there's no rebuttal by the water district, or we can't talk about what we're doing and the science that we have, if that's going to be discussed. So
Yeah.
that's just my opinion.
And my understanding is that there won't be any GA discussion. The GA is not up there. We're not, they just kind of just put everything that was water related off the.
I think with the fact that when that letter came out that was signed by the Chamber, Economic Development, and the Ridgecrest Realtors Association, that at that particular point that raised enough eyebrows. And I can't speak for the Chamber at all why, but maybe they figure they just want to lay low for a while. Maybe, I don't know, but but you and I know people. I'll find out. I'll try and find out. Yeah.
So just a quick comment about the state's proposal that you bill people to support the bills of other people unless you opt out. So it's probably obvious to everybody here or listening that if you have people who have incomes that can't afford their water bill and you start billing your other customers more to cover those bills, then you're going to increase the pool of people who can't afford their water. So it's going to start a doom spiral, and that is not a good thing. If the state wants to have water supply to people who have limited incomes to be affordable, they need not only to stop putting unfunded mandates on the water districts, they need to remove some of the requirements that they're suggesting they're going to impose on us, such as this ridiculous electric vehicles mandate for every public utility. The population of the state is already in decline. If they want to see the power of Sacramento drop by several more congressmen, they should continue to encourage people to leave the state because they can't afford to live here. That's all I have to
And,
say.
and you bring to mind also, that was another thing that was brought up, the burden on the water districts that would have to do this. A couple of them said we'd probably have to bring in one or two people just to handle this because, and they says, we also don't want the information because we would be responsible for getting information about incomes and social security numbers and verifying them and all these kind of things. So not only would you be doing this, you'd also incur an additional cost, which would raise your rates again already just to do the program. I'm
And that
glad you brought
level
that
of
up, David.
personal information requires an even higher level of security for our network.
Yeah.
You know, I thought there was something in Prop 218 that said you can only charge for what you deliver. You can't charge for what you deliver to someone
Else,
else.
that's right.
I don't see how that can possibly be legal.
Yeah, they're working on it. The state, you know, they won't give up. They're like, latch onto that. They're not gonna let go. Yes, sir.
Wasn't
That is the standard, Stan. You can only charge somebody for the cost of delivering the service.
For their service. You're
I
correct.
spoke to several water district leads down there, and some of them have decided that they're just not going to, they're just going to pay the fine. Because
Well,
it's so cumbersome to try to.
Well, you're talking about the fine for the mandate for water usage.
Yes.
And that's the things that that was interesting too. Many water districts just are electing to pay the fine rather than try to impose the usage restrictions on their customers. Because to do it would, I'm not sure the reason they gave you, but it's cheaper for them to pay the fine.
And that was discussed by this board when the item first came up.
I believe that applies to the California Conservation as a way of
Right,
life.
that's right, yes,
regulation, Just
yeah.
to clarify.
Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry. Anything else before I get to
You've got
Mike?
Mike Neal. So about unfunded mandates, I've seen this come up countless times over the years, being involved with various entities around town. My position has always been that it's against the law for the state to say you have to do such. And it's their idea, it's their initiative to make the proclamation about what has to be done unless they're going to pay for it. If they're not going to follow the law, then the position ought to be, well, we're not going to do it. Once we see the money show up to fund it, then we'll do it. Now, if there's some kind of also illegal fine being imposed on bodies because they don't obey an unfunded mandate, then I think that's more work for your lawyer and go to court and fight that kind of thing because you just can't. These guys are so used to doing this that it takes a little backbone to stand up and say, no, that's your idea. It wasn't our idea. If you want it done, give us the money. Otherwise, go take a hike.
Thank you. If there's no more comments, we'll move on. Are you done with your public outreach, George?
Yes, sir.
Okay. With that, we'll go on to the Northwest Transmission Pipeline. Give us the latest on this one.
All right. So we have the contractor working on punch list items right now. And we've been told that we'll start removing the old pipe from the right of way tomorrow.
Oh, yeah?
But they have asked for an extension of the contract for a couple more months because they need to extend their Caltrans permit in order to accommodate getting the pipeline removed and also doing the restoration of the right of way. So we're taking a look at that requests. We had a meeting with Caltrans last week to discuss their permit and the things that need to be done to close that out. So they're going to need a little more time for that. Otherwise, it's getting that pipeline in service is going to take probably a little more time than we originally thought because there'll be a little bit of a delay in finishing the contract for the contractor. But right now it's winter time and we're okay.
We're okay.
Yeah.
Any estimate on when we're going to have it flowing?
I don't. I would have to talk more. Jason would probably know better, but once we get the pipeline in our hands, then there's things that our staff are going to do with flushing and disinfection and things like that. So probably be another couple months.
I believe that at the plant and equipment meeting, Jason said that water would be flowing in time for summer.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
Usually in the winter, we only have a well or two on anyway.
Okay.
So having that out of commission in the winter is not an issue.
I
Okay.
just want to make a comment to the engineering folks and the team that's working on this. No contract goes perfectly. There's always the little bumps in the road and, back and forth. But what a fantastic job they've done on this one. I believe we're well within budget. We're well within schedule. This extension is really so they can clean up the mess out there on the highway. Fantastic job by the team, despite the few little bumps that we have had as far as getting this executed.
Our associate engineer, Justin's done a good job of the project management, staying on top of things. So.
Yeah.
We're getting there, slowly but surely, but we'll be there before summer,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Pipes in the
Okay.
ground.
Any other comments from the board? And from the public?
Yes, I was wondering, I asked this a few months ago. The restoration of the shoulder of the road, can you tell what is going to be done there?
They have to, gosh, I can't say for sure, whatever Caltrans is requiring them to do, but there's some grading that has to be done and some compaction, and they have stored some of the native soil, and so they have to put that back on top so that, the native plants, whatever, can grow back. There wasn't much in there
Will
anyway.
it be reseeded at all?
No, there won't be any reseeding required.
And what kind of dust control will there be then?
Dust control, well, there's compaction that's required.
Right, but as you know, the wind blows hard here in the springtime.
Caltrans not requiring it.
All right, thank you. The native plants that were growing there were put there by the water district when they put the Northwest transmission line in the first time.
And the seeds in the soil should grow back.
If it ever rains again.
Right. There's also some delineators, mile markers, things like that they have to also install, so.
But the pipeline's there. It just, all this other work needs to be done before it's turned over to us officially to,
Right.
Okay.
Have to get the contract closed out.
okay. I believe Renee said she had a question. Is she still on the line?
Hopefully I answered her question.
Yeah,
Yes.
Renee answered my questions.
Okay, great.
Okay,
Good.
thank you.
Thank you. Oh, I see. Oh, I guess we're done. All right. We'll move on from transmission line to the water system consolidation projects updates.
All right, so there's a lot going on here. We've got 3 projects. We've got Dune 3, Hometown, and then the Rodemacher Way project that we're doing with the Groundwater Authority. So we have agreements signed with the state for both Hometown and Dune 3. And we're waiting now for the state's legal department to shoot back to us the agreements that we're going to need to sign between the district and each water system. And our legal department has sent us a draft that we're looking at that's for right of entry for those 2 projects do involve switching people's water services over. So we'll have to get on their property and do some plumbing work there. So we need to have agreements in writing with each of the property owners for that. And I also had a meeting with the state rep to go over some of the language for the agreement. She wants to make sure we're aware of all the things that are required, the different, the word is slipping through my mind. I swear as you get older, your mind just goes.
Oh.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Doesn't get better.
Yeah, it doesn't get better.
Yeah, we have to do reporting.
Yeah.
The reporting that's required and things like that. And we can also start submitting some of the costs that we've already incurred too. So
Great. All right.
yeah. As far as Rodemacher Way, Krieger and Stewart's working on phase 2. We've got some potholing to do. They sent me the easements that need to go out to all the property owners. And we've also put in the first invoice to the GA for costs that we've already incurred. You probably saw that in their packet. It's in there. And as far as I know, no new information about Unicurn CSD. So.
Okay. I need to ask a question about that particular invoice.
Mhm.
Is that shown as a separate invoice on their invoice payable to us? Not Stetson paying us?
No, it's
Okay.
an invoice that I think has to be approved by GA, but it's going to be submitted to the grant. It's going to be submitted to the state.
Okay, great.
Yes.
All right.
So we'll have to wait till they get reimbursement and then they'll pay us.
Know how it showed up on the agenda for that, Chuck, so as you vote and such, okay, great, thank you. All right. And last item,
Oh, the conservation.
the new
Yeah,
information.
so this annual report, the first one's gonna be due in January 1st. The state sent us well, we have to download it. It's a Excel workbook. There's a next slide on there. Yeah. So I know you can't see all this. This is just like the first page of about 20 different tabs on this workbook. But they have pre-filled in, which is nice, the data they've gotten from other reports that we've already submitted to the state. So this is just the first page. And then on the right side is all the different tabs of all the different pages that you can go to. So I'm going to be looking at that. According to what's already pre-filled in, we meet our water use objectives already for the report. So, but I will be double checking and see if there's anything that we need to change. We might want to change our population number they're using or something like that, but yeah. So.
What is the frequency of the report?
Annual. And
This will
this
be
is
annual,
for
okay.
fiscal year 23-24.
Okay. All right. So it's
So
going to
that-
be annual report.
Yeah,
That's,
we
that's,
do
that's
January
good.
1st every year.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, so in general, they're getting us
That's fiscal year. Yes.
Yeah, so these first couple of, I think maybe the first one or two reporting periods, there's not super hard regulatory requirements, the real, you have to meet all this stuff. I mean, we're doing such a great job. But, yeah, if you want to know what engineering's doing, dig through, 20 pages like this of spreadsheet that you have to validate and check and fill in. It's a lot of work, and we don't get any extra money for this, and we don't get any extra employees for this, so.
Another state mandate.
Yeah, it's another state mandate, and, our engineering section, Renee, thank you for picking that up and just running with it. It's a lot of extra work.
Don't forget, the state will always say, hey, this thing doesn't cost you any money at all. It's just
Oh,
a
yeah.
report. So you have to do it for free.
Well, and we're the lucky ones. We're either in compliance or so, we're in for a lengthy period of time. Those agencies that are, 20 or 30% water reductions required to comply with this, that's going to be a tough one. And as Mallory pointed out, there are places that are just like, we'll take the fine.
My question is, once you do the first report, I would hope that the following year, you're just most of it's still filled out. You may be making some minor changes.
Yeah, hopefully.
Unless they change the whole report on you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hopefully even the format it's in now is mostly going to be good, but I do have to go through it and then take a look
Where'd they get the information from your water?
They pulled it from other reports that we've
Submit?
already submitted.
Wow.
Yeah. Monthly reports, some
Yeah.
annual reports to the drinking
Yeah.
water program.
And
Great.
and then there's this whole thing, so you not only have to account for how much is residential, then you have to do this whole accounting of all the different commercial, like what all, this guy is a barber shop and that
Oh,
guy is
geez.
a flower shop and this is Costco and so we
Oh,
have this whole categorization and then you have these commercial industrial water meters that we have to track sort of individually, which ones are assigned to that and how much water goes there. So there's a lot of sort of water accounting that goes on with this. That's at a pretty detailed level. So
Wow.
it's not insignificant and it's going to change every year because you're going to have to track all these different things.
Will this
and
report be available once it's submitted to the state, it's going to be available on our webpage? That we'll be able to see it? As a-
On our webpage?
Yeah.
I wasn't planning on it. I think it's
just-
probably going to be available for the state's website. I don't know.
The state's
I don't know,
website.
honestly.
I don't know. It's up to you guys if you want to do that or not.
We'll
Just
look at
ask.
that in our,
Hate to make,
Link to it.
just an Excel workbook available. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Aqua pushing back on some of this.
Aqua did push back on a lot of this regulation and they made significant changes, including things like, someday if we need to, we can apply for a evaporative cooler variance. And there were a lot of things in this regulation that were even more onerous than it turned out to be. So there were significant modifications and changes made to the regulation based on working groups that from Aqua and other agencies. So it's very different than how it started, but it's still not insignificant.
Was there any discussion about double regulation by Aqua? I just have this feeling that we're so double regulated in this basin. If we are set up to follow the standards that the GSA sets.
Yeah.
And then we're also governed by the state coming in telling us how much water our customers can use, but we've already been regulated by the state through another avenue.
Yeah.
So we're getting double regulated is my feeling on that. I think if you're in a basin that is regulated through a groundwater authority, you're already being regulated by the state. So why would the state come in again? So
Yeah.
I think maybe we should look at fighting that because we're just over-regulated.
Yeah, no, and those are good things. So I've actually volunteered to be on the State Regulatory Development Committee with Aqua. So I will be getting, I've gotten an invitation already, and I'm going to start, I'll be able to, believe, follow in Don's footsteps to work with these great supportive groups like Aqua to help try to bring those kind of issues forward. I want to say, I'll just relate a quick anecdotal thing. I was sitting at a table with another general manager, and he asked us, well, how much water do you guys use? And I said, oh, we use like 5,500 acre feet a year. And he said, oh, that's a population of 12,000. I said, no, that's about 32,000 people. And he went, oh, that's impossible. There's no way you can have that many people. And we sat and argued with this guy for a good 5 minutes. And I'm like, we're measuring the water, how much we only have one supply. He couldn't believe how efficient we were. So we talked about the way we've gone. And what this really leads to is yet another opportunity to say thank you to the people who live in this city who have done the utmost to conserve water, to get us where we are today, the people that came here before me, the water district as a whole. We are so far ahead of the game. That guy just literally couldn't believe that we could serve this population with the amount of water we use. I thought that was a pretty great compliment to us.
Good. Thank you.
I would like to say something. And then I
Yes,
have to
please.
leave. You talked a lot about the state has to pay for it. The state has to pay for it. I will remind you who the state is that pays.
Yeah, I
It's
know.
us.
I know.
It's us.
Yep.
And November has just passed, but 2 years is not very far away. And it's time for each and every one of you to look for viable candidates to run that have real people in mind and common sense.
You got that right. Thank you.
And Merry Christmas.
And Merry
to you.
Christmas. to
Merry
you.
Christmas.
Yes. Merry Christmas. Okay, we have someone on. Okay. So who's on the line?
Yeah, this is Renee Westelusk. I just had a question on the water consolidation discussion regarding the Rademacher Way project.
Yes.
Okay, right now you're just doing the design for phase 1 and 2, but no work has been done, correct, yet?
The design for phase 1 is complete. We're doing the design for phase 2. You are correct that no work has been done yet as far as construction.
Okay, do you have like a timeline of when you expect construction?
I don't yet. It's probably spring sometime. We need to get the design done for phase 2 and approved by the state.
Additionally, they need to get the property entry language
Yes.
finalized and have the property owners sign those
Well,
agreements before they can actually.
not for Rademacher.
Not for Rademacher?
No.
You need
Huh?
easement assignment, right?
Yeah, we do need to get the easement signed.
Okay.
Hopefully there's no issues with that.
Is it fair to say that we need the Northwest transmission line up and operational prior to taking the risk of cutting into the Springer line for
Yes.
that? So that's one of the mitigating factors is until we get that other main supply line to our water system up and functioning properly, there is some risk to cutting into that Springer line. So that will factor into the equation.
Yeah, we have to cut into it
To make the
in
point,
2 places, yes.
Okay. Did you get your question answered there, Renee?
Yeah, so you're saying it'll be the spring before you get to phase 1 for Rademacher?
Most likely. I
Like you're
don't,
talking April, May?
yes,
Okay,
hopefully sooner.
okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right, are we ready to move on? Well, everybody here is ready to move on, okay. So we're on to conservation's way of life, or we get through that? Nope, we already talked about that. Let's move on to financial status.
Okay, we kind of already went over the table.
Yeah, we did.
So we are doing a little better than budget. We do have capital expenditures of 5.4 million, with most of that being the Northwest Transmission Line. Debt service principal of 468,000. Total GA fees paid to date, 16,500,000. Just a note, I see they do have their annual budget in the packet for approval. And so I was curious and went and looked at the tables. They have a beginning balance for their augmentation fund, which is the replenishment fund, a beginning balance of 0. There's no money in their augmentation fund.
And how much have we, just to date?
Of replenishment fee, we paid $13.5 million.
Okay.
And is there any balance at the end of the year showing or no?
No, they're using it all during the year as well.
And I saw like some 700,000 was being redirected. Did there's really any detail on that?
Yeah, 588,000 they're sending to the extraction fund, and the rest they're spending on
Whatever they call.
administration, non-departmental, basin management administration. Yeah.
I do, if you look at the, their consent calendar where the itemized invoices are, it always identifies where replenishment is going. Ones that stand out to me is the $250,000 of the city. A lot of that's coming out of replenishment fee. So if you look at that, you can tell where replenishment fee is being spent.
Yeah. So just
Okay. And of course, a lot from our regional government services too. A bunch of their bill goes to replenishment fee. I don't know why. All right. So 0 beginning balance, huh?
and ending.
And who else is paying? Are we the only ones paying replenishment fee?
Currently, we're the only ones paying.
We're the only ones paying. Okay. All right. Any comments on financial status from the public or the board?
One on public.
Okay, we got one from the public. Yes. I take it it's Renee?
Yes, on the replenishment fee, you're saying that's just replenishment fee, 16.5 million paid to the GA for the replenishment fee. What about the extraction fee?
No, so the total paid to the GA is 16.5. 13.5 of that is the replenishment fee. The other 3 million is the extraction fee.
Oh, okay. Somehow I didn't catch that in your discussion. All right. Thank you for clarifying.
Thank you, Renee. Okay. On to conservation.
For the calendar year, so we're almost closing up 2024. We got 15 water waste reports received, 15 contacts made, 2 formal warnings issued, and 1 penalty issued.
All right.
You can see the numbers decreased, and I think that's because Don's not here. He used to be the water guy.
He would report people.
Who would? No, no.
You're saying I have work to do?
Yeah.
Stay at that level, yeah.
Start riding a bicycle around town.
I want to make a comment about the system available to the ratepayers, the WaterWise, what is it? What I'm called WaterWise, is that it? WaterSmart, I'm sorry. Again, I use that because, and I'll tell you how, because it's very interesting because I see how much it works for you. I basically turn off my agricultural meter, turn it off. And then all of a sudden I kept seeing this about 10 gallons a day, 10 gallons a day. And I went looking around for it, and sure enough, I found out what it is. I have an outside fountain that's with a float, but it's all stone in there. But if that float goes bad, right, it tends to spill over a little. If it hadn't have been for that, I might have never noticed it. So again, even though it wasn't a lot of water, but it's enough to see, is my system being maintained? So again, I say it over and over again to people who are listening and everyone else, you got to use it. And it's so optional the way you can look at it, what you can look at by the hour. I was able to see it.
It's a useful tool even for customer accounts whenever they have someone come in.
Yeah.
I don't know where the water's going or what's happening. Well, let's look at the
Timing and
frame
everything.
and when that's happening, how much it's.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can tell when Sharon's washing clothes on the inside, turn that thing off, or do by hand. Okay, but anyway, I had to put my plug in for that. All right, on to arsenic treatment.
Well, Jason isn't here. I mean, I can tell you what was reported at P&E. Both plants are offline for the winter, and that sometime during this winter, once the transmission pipeline, Northwest Transmission Pipeline's operational, they're going to be working on replacing the media at Plant 2.
Okay. All right, you might as well move into operations.
I don't have anything for that. Did Jason give you
Yeah,
anything?
it's just right-
George, or otherwise we'll, oh, there it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some. what
Go
they-
ahead, George.
Yeah, sure. 17 replacements, 15 repairs, one no des, 8,500 gallons, bringing us a total of 9,445,891 gallons saved. 34 valves turned, 279 to date in our valve exercise program. And we're continuing to work on our water supply testing for our GIS system. So they're busy over there, keeping the magic happening.
Yeah,
Great.
the Water Supply Department has specific data that they're using the GIS to input that stuff.
I
So,
see.
yeah, they're
Okay.
testing that.
Gotcha. All right. Any comments on the whole manager's report? Anything?
No.
No more on the line there? Looks like we're done with that, huh? Okay. Jim, you look like you have anything?
What's that?
Do you have anything? You look at me like, let me talk. Nothing to say. Okay, I'll move on to board comments and future agenda items. So I'll start with Director Boyd.
So just a couple of things. There were some interesting sideline discussions that we had at the meeting last week. George and I had a chance meeting with Water District Lead for Irwindale. I didn't realize Irwindale had their own private water system down there. They're not part of Metropolitan. They have their own wells, they have their own system. And they recently installed in the San Gabriel Canyon, I'm sure some of you have been down there before, it's where they had their quarries in Irwindale between San Dimas and Duarte. And they've dug these deep pits and they've got this cascade effect now, 3 or 4 of them, maybe 5, that capture water as they come out of the canyons. He says there's very little water that actually flows down out to the ocean now. It's all captured in these big capture basins, percolates down through the granite, but it's all decomposed, so it's not clay. And that's been helping supplement their water supply. It occurred to me there may be some opportunities like that around here, like maybe Sand Canyon. But anyway, just some things it might serve as a information tour for a water management group. Maybe Krieger and his folks can go down there, but that was a lot of fun, and thank you for hosting. Thank you for all the work you guys did. That was with the pipeline and et cetera. Happy holidays.
All right, Stan?
It was good to see Chris here tonight. Haven't seen him for a while. Other than that, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everybody else, including Chris.
Yeah. Mr. Griffin?
I want to say Merry Christmas to everybody. And then lastly, I would like to recognize Joe. I had the pleasure of working with Joe here at the Water District in the 90s. And Joe was a great coworker. I think he's going to be greatly missed by the district. I think he was a great asset. So I just want to say congratulations to him publicly because he's a hell of a guy.
Is he staying in the area?
I think he's going to leave and go to Arizona.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I think they have
His
water problems.
retirement card here says gone fishing.
In Arizona, huh? Okay, Mr. State-Amon.
Yes, first I'd like to thank the staff for their professionalism, and I'd like to thank the board for their confidence in me and electing me as president for the coming year. It will be my honor to serve, and I thank you for that. I also would like to say Merry Christmas and Happy Hanukkah to everyone, and Happy Holidays if I've missed somebody's particular celebration. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. I'd like to say thank you for the staff. I've enjoyed my year as president. There's a lot going on, and a lot will continue to go on. I think we're turning over to a good president and vice president. I appreciate it, everything that you guys have done for the district. I will continue to. I brag about the district all the time. I think we have a wonderful staff here, and everybody that works here does a great job. And the last thing I want to say is, again, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year, go Notre Dame.
Wait a second.
All those good things that happen around the holidays, okay? And the best to you and your families. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful holiday. And with that, If there's any comments, Jim, anything to say, or George? If not, I'll move on and close the session.
I just want to say, every time I go to the Aqua Conference and I talk to other general managers, I realize how lucky I am to have the board I do have. You guys are great. You really understand stuff from a technical perspective, and you would be amazed at some of the things that other general managers have to deal with. So pleasure to work with you all.
Thank you. All right, with that, I will close the meeting at 7:09. Thank you.